I am here with Antonio Amorim at Amorim Cork in Portugal. Thanks very much for having us in to talk. I'd love to start the conversation by hearing a little bit about your family history. You are the biggest producer of corks, wine stoppers in the world, and a little bit about the size and scale of your operation in the cork market.
Good. First of all, thank you very much for being here with us to have this conversation that I'm sure I will be enjoying very much. Amorim is a long story, a story that started 155 years ago, next to the port wine cellars in Gaia, in Porto, with my great-grandfather. So I'm fourth generation in the family working with Cork, working for Cork. So today we are located at the second oldest facility of Amorim, next door to the third and to the mother company of Amorim that was then set up in 1922. So this is a long-standing history of a true commitment of a family, of people that are passionate about a unique material that is cork. Cork being exported as a raw material for manufacturing industries that were outside of Portugal, in Catalonia, in the UK, in Germany, in France, in Italy, in the US, and that gradually we brought to be manufactured in its home country, the biggest cork producing country in the world, which is Portugal. Portugal and Spain account for about 85% of the world's cork production. So what is Amorim today after 155 years? The world leader in cork manufacturing, the world leader in cork stoppers for wine, for sparkling wine, champagne, prosecco, and world leader in bar tops, cork bar tops for the spirits industry. We employ in total as a company, cork stoppers and other divisions, around 4,500 people. We operate and we sell to more than 100 countries in the world. We have more than 50 companies outside of Portugal, 1,500 people operating outside of Portugal, 3,000 people in Portugal. And this is basically what we have been achieving with a true commitment to cork. We exist to add value to cork.
What is it about cork that makes it such a versatile material with so many different applications?
Cork is really, as you said, a unique material. It's a unique material that comes from nature. We think it's one of nature's best gifts. We don't cut the tree to get the cork. We just peel the bark of the tree for the first time after 25 years of the tree being planted. And from then onwards, every 9 years, a cork tree can last up to 200 years. So it's a gift of nature because 95% of the cork trees that you have in Portugal and Spain have not been man-planted. They have been basically born by nature. You have had those trees really emerging by themselves, by the nature itself. Cork as a material is unique. If you look cork with a microscope, I think cork was the first material on planet Earth to be looked at on the microscope. There are historic registers.
That's amazing.
That say that.
It goes to show how intriguing it is as a material that the first material someone might want to see closer is a cork.
Yeah, because it was found at the time, 200 or 300 years ago, that cork's cellular structure is like a honeycomb structure. 70% of the space of the cells is air. So when you compress the cork really compresses, but then immediately after it relaxes once again. So that makes it unique, and that's why you compress the cork to get into a bottleneck. Once you remove the punching, you really have the cork coming back to its original size, sealing the bottle completely. So this is really what is unique about cork. And because of its cellular structure, it's a very light material. It's a material that can be a fantastic insulator. It's a material that can be impermeable to gas and liquids. So we can seal a wine bottle, but we cannot seal also the walls of a boat transporting LNG gas. This is what cork really is as a material. Because of its cellular structure, is a fantastic fantastic performance on acoustics, on vibration control. So those are really the main features of this material. Nobody has worked on this cellular structure. It was nature that gave us cork.
It strikes me that it's almost like a natural foam.
It is.
Yes, and
it is.
It has that lightweight, the compressibility, the insulation properties. Obviously, I want to center our conversation around cork bottle closures and how they work with wine and spirits and so on. But I think just before we get into that, you've mentioned some of its properties for dampening sound, its compressibility. What other applications is the cork that you're manufacturing being used for beyond stoppers?
Beyond stoppers, there are flooring. It's one of the most important uses for cork. Cork can really give you the comfort, the walking comfort, the acoustic comfort. It's an anti-allergic material. A lot used in children's bedrooms. It's really a material that can absorb the impact. Doesn't break your cell phone if you drop it on a cork floor. When you walk, it almost gives you that spring effect that really reduces fatigue. So cork is on flooring a very important material. On insulation, a very important historic use for cork, both on facade as well as interior decoration. It can also be used for things like shoes, footwear, Birkenstocks, can be used for orthopedic shoes, for ladies' fashion shoes. It can also be used, and this is a growing application, on ceiling applications, electric transformers, gas meters. And probably one of the most technological solutions for cork has been the aerospace industry. Cork is the perfect material to be a thermal shield on the satellite rocket launchers. It's a perfect thermal shield on the nose of the space shuttle that existed for many, many years. So cork was discovered by NASA as being a natural polymer, a natural foam that could resist the best for temperature variation without losing its mass. That means that cork really can face up to temperature variation of up to 2000 degrees. It, of course, burns slightly, but does not lose its mass. So it's really one of the most important growing applications for cork. The main users are the great companies in the aerospace industry that are today household names. We also moving up to things like sports surfaces, to put cork as in an infield for the turf sports floors. It really reduces the temperature of those floors, the abrasion of those fields, and it's really a fantastic application. On mobility, what you search for in mobility, you search light materials that reduce vibrations and that are sustainable. Always cork must work because of its performance, but is a material that has unique sustainable features. So those are things that we go beyond cork stoppers. But we are investing a lot in research development capabilities, bringing to our company a lot of talent that is really allowing us to develop a lot more than what we have developed so far. And that's the great thing about cork. We think that the best in our industry is yet to come, because every single time that we research something further, we see a huge potential for cork to be used in new uses and new applications.
Yeah, and especially as a sustainable material, which I want to get into a little bit later, actually. It's remarkable, the myriad ways that it's being used. It strikes me as a material that if it didn't exist naturally, we'd be desperate to invent it because it can be used in so many different ways.
But it does.
It does. It
But
does.
it does. I mean, when you have the runway of airports, you have cement concrete blocks. What do you put in the middle? Expansion joints. Cork could be a fantastic material that every 40 seconds or 1 minute when a plane lands or takes off, that cement concrete block will move. And you need something that compresses and immediately relaxes, regaining its original shape. That's cork. So that's the kind of things that we can do in cork beyond. It's the most important use, which is for beverages, namely wine, champagne, and spirits.
Yeah. So let's go back to the origins then, and the trees themselves. You mentioned 80% are grown in Spain and Portugal. Can you also mentioned 25 years minimum before they can start being harvested. What else is there to say about the trees themselves? Where do they grow? What is their preferred environment?
They basically grow on the Mediterranean basin, Portugal, Spain, Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, a little bit in Sicily, Sardinia, a little bit in the south of France. So that's the birth area for cork. Could it grow somewhere else? I think it could, both on the northern parallel where cork is grown on this side of the planet. I'm sure that if you take it to California, there are cork trees in California. There are not cork forests in California, but if you go to UC Davis in Sacramento, you have cork trees around there. If you go to the southern hemisphere on the same parallel, you have cork trees in Canberra, you have cork trees in South Africa, in Chile and Argentina, but you don't have forest. I don't think anybody else would have the patience to wait for 25 years like the Portuguese and the Spaniards do. And I think that's the only reason why we have been able to grow cork trees successful on this part of the world. There is another reason why that is also applicable. Cork trees are a barrier for desertification. And we are not too far away on the south of Portugal and the south of Spain for desertified areas in North Africa. So, for example, in a country like Tunisia, almost the desert stops when the cork forests start.
Wow.
Because it's a tree that exists for 150, 180, 200 years, 250 years. That is a fantastic barrier to avoid the desertification of our most difficult regions in Portugal and Spain where climate is tough. So you basically grow cork on very poor soils, on some extreme climate conditions, but with sufficient humidity, with some proximity to the sea that allows that tree to grow. And they have found their best location on this part of the planet, and we are very happy to contribute to their development.
For sure. I just thought, I remember speaking about where they grow. When I was growing up, as a young boy, I lived on a farm and there was a cork tree on the farm. They're very unusual in the UK. You don't see them very often at all. And this was a big old cork tree. And I have to suggest that another great use for cork is for a young boy climbing trees. They are very good fun to climb because they're soft on your hands. They don't cut you. They're also very knobbly, and so you got good grip. And it's a very gentle tree to climb.
Probably with climate change, we will see some more cork trees arriving to the UK. But the cork trees have been seen on this part of the world already for centuries and for thousands of years. The first sandals used by Romans were made out of cork, not out of wood. The first beehives.
Really?
Because cork basically insulates, creating some warmth where honey is produced, where the fishing buoys that used to be put on the nets of the fishermen to float. Cork is a material that floats, once again, due to its unique cellular structure. So, I mean, you go back some hundreds, thousands of years to find cork being used, at least on this part of the world.
What can we say about the harvesting of cork? Does it occur at a particular time of year or season?
The cork tree is a quercus, it's an oak tree, but with a very specific feature. It has an outer layer that generates foam, and generates sap on spring and a little bit in autumn. And that liquid, that sap, that foam, once the tree hibernates in August, that liquid part is going to become solid. And that's the cork itself. So the only time of the year where you can detach the cork from the tree itself is when you have that foam, that sap in the middle that can allow the cork to be detached. And that normally happens in springtime. So June, July, up to the first 10 days of August. That's the harvesting season in Portugal and Spain.
And what is from a sort of organic point of view, what is the tree actually doing here? Is it creating insulation for itself for a cold winter, or?
The tree is actually doing that. It's creating, it's releasing on its biological cycle. It's releasing its foam to protect itself against climate, winds, rains, and that's protective shield. So when we harvest cork, there is a stressful period for the tree that is about 21, 22 days after the harvest. That is a stressful period because the tree suddenly saw its skin being removed. And from that moment onwards, that the tree has concluded that skin is not coming back, so it starts protecting itself again. So it heals the cork that has just heals that regenerative layer that creates that foam that becomes later the cork and starts recreating that again, as you said, as a way of protecting itself.
And then the same tree can be harvested every single year in that fashion?
Every 9 years.
Every 9 years?
Every 9 years.
Right.
From the first harvest onward, cork regrows, and every 9 years we harvest that tree again.
Right. And the thickness of the cork that you take off the tree will depend on climate factors?
Will depend on the age of the tree.
Right.
Will depend on climate factors such as rain, on the fertility or not that you may have in the soil, on the composition of the soil itself together with other species. If you have, for example, too much cattle on those grounds, it will compact the land very much, so the cork will not grow as much as it could if we did not have cattle on that same property. So yes, it depends on that. But basically age and climate.
Okay. So the cork is cut off the tree, and this is done by effectively splitting a line vertically down the tree and then peeling away that outer cork bark.
Exactly. So it's done still manually. We are introducing some mechanical components to allow for better productivity on the cork harvesting, but manually it is harvested. Very, very skilled labor, very well paid labor for this part of the world. So you don't have lack of labor because people want to work by tradition also throughout these 2.5 months doing that specific job. You remove the cork with care so that you do not bless or injure the tree itself. And today that's basically how the whole thing happens. We are trying to use some mechanization in this process so that we can improve the productivity that we have, because it's a very hard job at 35, 40 degrees. People start working at 6 o'clock in the morning up till o'clock in the afternoon.
Before it gets
That's
too hot.
very, very tough. So we're trying to see if we can really help speeding that process over in order for us to have a future for these very highly skilled people.
What are they called? The guys that cut the cork?
Cork harvesters.
The cork harvesters.
Corcheros in Spain.
Corcheros. Huh. So they cut off these big sort of slabs of cork bark effectively. These are then presumably loaded onto trucks, and then what happens next?
Basically, we keep those planks stored in our premises. We have 600,000 square meters of storage space where at least they are kept there for 6 months, basically aging for that period of time, making sure that it removes all the humidity, the sap that it had when it was harvested is going to be converted into another layer. And 6 months to 7 months after being harvested, you can start working that cork, boiling boiling that cork in order to make it flat, removing any microorganisms that it might have gained in atmosphere throughout the 9 years that it has been on the tree. Once you bring hot water, humidity, it really allows the cork to be flattened up, and then we're gonna select the thickness of the cork, the grade of the cork, and send different cork plants for different cork usage.
So grading, the thickness is pretty easy to get your head around, thicker, thinner. But the grading part of it, what are you looking for here?
You're looking for the porosity that you see on a cork plank. So if you basically see a very dense material with very low porosity, that's a very high grade cork that is going to be used to make the best cork stoppers for the most iconic wines in the world, or the best discs for the most important champagnes and iconic champagnes in the world, or English sparkling wines. So that's how important it is. And if the cork has all these features, it is worth a lot more because it's going to be used for the very high end of the wine market.
Okay, so the highest grade will be used for the best wines. As we go down through the grades, what are the different uses for these corks? And where, at some point you get to a point where the cork is effectively pelletized, correct?
Cork, what we use is that the cork does not have these minimum requirements. We are going to grind and convert it into granules, or the byproducts that are generated from this high-end natural cork production. We also going to use to make granules and for us to make other types of cork stoppers for wines that are consumed more rapidly than the previous ones, or for other non-cork stoppers or non-wine or spirits related uses. What is the criteria here? The size and the specific weight of those granules. Depending on that, depends the different usage of cork.
Okay, and so a higher grade cork that's not necessarily good enough to be kept intact and used for fine wines might be ground to a larger pellet size. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Large, or we can work that up because we can grind, as you have flour to cereal and flour. We can grind on different sizes and shapes. So, but the second most important use for these byproducts and for this raw material is actually cork stoppers. Cork stoppers for faster rotating wines that we make a micro granulate cork that then we're gonna sell in the market. And that's probably today the most sold product that we have in our cork stoppers division is the micro granulate cork for wines, for sparkling wines, and sometimes for spirits as well.
Okay, so we've got in front of us here a kind of, we can see how some of these natural cork stoppers are punched out. So this is done with some kind of drill that grinds it out?
This is done in two ways. For the best cork, here you have a good example. We brought you the very best. This has been manually punched. For the grades that are slightly below, we have automatic punching machines.
So these are done manually by hand?
This is done one by a pedal.
So
that is still today the best way.
Right.
So we get the natural cork stopper straight from this plank that has been cut on the right size, the right length that we want the cork to be. We adjust the punching machine to have the right diameter, and the skill and the expertise of the man that does this punching will improve the yield usage of the cork, because the spaces between the cork stoppers are absolutely spot on. But this is people that do 16,000 corks a day.
Wow.
So very, 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 very skilled people.
Yeah, so it's punching it out rather than cutting it out.
It's punching it out,
yeah.
And these leftovers are going to be ground to produce granules to go back to what we just were describing.
And what's interesting here is they're being punched out perpendicular to the face of the cork bark itself, right? Rather than going in.
Yes, because that will align the cellular structure of the cork for its impermeable characteristics to be spot on. That is done on purpose, of course.
Yeah. So are they truly impermeable? I mean, obviously liquid does not leak out through a cork, but is there some passage of air that passes through corks?
No, what we have is that the cellular structure of the cork, as I said, 70% is air. So when you compress it inside of the bottle, that air goes partly into the bottle. And that is the air that allows the wine to evolve, to improve, to better evolve inside that bottle. This is really a unique chemistry that happens there, because that air that was just released from the cork is really what's going to allow that wine to evolve positively with time. And that's why when you have a wine critic that is evaluating a wine from Bordeaux in 2020, and he says that do not drink this wine before 2028. And that wine is going to be bottled, if the vintage is 2020, it's going to be bottled in 2022. So 6 years in the bottle benefit a lot from this transfer of air that the cellular structure of the cork has released, and that will allow that wine to evolve with time. That's why that wine in 2028 is better than it was when it was bottled in 2022.
What I found most fascinating about this, though, is that the cork is in a way an ingredient in the wine, isn't it? If the air is coming out of the cork, then part of that bottle of wine becomes from the cork.
It is. I think that more and more, and we have a lot of research being done on this, because there was a part in our history where we had to tackle the defects that the cork could bring onto a wine. But today we are researching mostly the positive contributions that cork can add to improving the quality of a given wine. And that is exactly the case. So I think that the cork could really become not only a closure, but also an enological product.
Yeah. So just thinking about the composite corks versus these very high grade, the best of the best natural corks, what is the sort of price difference between those for a winemaker?
We have going global corks that go from 6 cents to €6 per piece.
€6 for a cork. Wow.
I mean, when you have these very, very long corks like this, almost no lenticels, absolutely unique from the cork itself, where you can see the growth rings of that cork, absolutely perfect. I mean, that cork is having the perfect density. It's going to have a fantastic work on a wine that could stay in that bottle for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. So those corks could be worth a lot of money, because we have to do manual hand selection of those corks, extracting a fraction of the top grade of the cork just to make sure that we have that iconic cork that is going to a few bottles in the world that can really afford and are in really need of having such an exquisite cork. On the wines that are consumed on a more regular, frequent basis, which are the vast majority of the wines worldwide, then you probably do not need such a high-end cork. Price is also a reason. The time of consumption of that wine bottle is the main reason for you to have a more competitive cork. So you can have corks at 10 cents, 15 cents, 20 cents. That goes along with that competitive need that we have in order to make the bottle of wine affordable at a given price point, as the winemaker has thought about it.
We've got some caps here as well, which I think are all for spirits bottles. Are there any particular considerations when manufacturing, shaping corks for spirits as opposed to wine?
There are. I mean, just to organize the portfolio of products. So we have corks that are one-piece corks, like these natural corks that we've just referred, the most expensive. These are one piece. You have these microgranulate composite corks that goes on the wines that rotate faster. Then you have sparkling wine corks that can be very important on a growing segment worldwide. Sparkling wine is on the way up, not only in the UK, but mostly everywhere else as well, that can be made of one piece of composite microgranulate cork, or can be used on the most high-end champagnes and sparkling wines, can be aglo shank with two natural discs.
Yes.
Two natural discs, always the natural, to reinforce the sensory
so this is a layered cork.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Two discs that are assembled together with a cork shank, and then you have the bar tops. On the bar tops, you have two types of cork: the natural cork, the microgranulate cork, that are assembled on a plastic that is basically being phased out, or a wood top, or a glass top, or a metal top. And that's basically been gaining momentum because the most important spirits, the most iconic spirits in the world, really deserve a premium closure. And I think Cork is clearly well positioned with its wood top to give that premium look that you are looking on your 12-year and above whiskies, on your cognacs that have been replacing screw caps for cork premium closures, or bourbons, or tequilas, or gins, or rums. So it's really a growing application for the premium segment of the spirits industry.
There's the sound of a cork as well, isn't there? Both the popping of a champagne cork, but also that squeaking of a sound in a wine bottle or a spirit bottle that is hard to imitate with synthetic materials, right?
No, I think the synthetics have had it, to be honest with you.
I dropped the synthetic word, and
yes,
now...
I mean, synthetic, it really causes automatic allergy. Plastic is almost a rude word to be used.
I can imagine, yeah.
Especially when you have absolutely unique materials from a performance point of view, unique materials from a sustainability point of view, and unique materials that can compete also on the different price points with synthetics. So absolutely no reason why the wine, the sparkling wine or the spirits industry would need those. I think we have in nature a much better range of products to offer, and much more premium and much more performant than plastic synthetic stoppers.
Come back to that topic maybe near the end, because I'm interested in talking about it. But I've got another bad word for you: trichloroanisole, TCA, which is otherwise known as cork wine taint. Can you first of all explain, for people who are unsure exactly what that is, what it is, and then let's maybe talk a little bit about how much of a danger it presents these days, how that's changed over the last 10, 20, 30, 40 years?
So TCA, trichloroanisole, is associated with what normally people would say cork taint. It's not cork taint, it's TCA taint, but people have associated that with cork taint. It actually results from the metabolization of free chlorine that you have all over the world with mold. And that in some parts of the tree may happen, and some parts of the cork production process, they may emerge. And it really reached a peak about 25 years ago, and that's probably what the industry, what has led to alternative closures entering the
two kind of coincided
exactly,
with each other, didn't they?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So from 2001 onwards, we really have been investing heavily, first of all, in talent, research and development teams with a true mission of eradicating TCA from the corks. And today we are very happy to say that TCA is something that belongs to the past and not anymore to the present, and certainly not belonging to the future. How has Amorim approached this fight against TCA? First of all, we created a set of preventive measures, going from the tree to the bottling line, trying to identify each part of the production process and see the criticality that was on each part of the production process and try to correct it. So if I improve some of the practice, if I find that there is TCA on the plank of the cork close to the ground, I cannot boil it. So I need to remove it before I take into the boiling phase of our process. So we have created a set of preventive measures. We have created a European certification for the companies that would comply with those best practices, and that has improved a lot our performance. But it was not enough. So what have we done next? To introduce technology. Technology that would be removing TCA if TCA was still there present in the cork, on the plank or on the stopper itself. So technology that uses steam, technology that uses specific technology that uses steam with pressure, supercritical technology that has clearly removed TCA from the cork. And that's been really complementing the preventive measures that were already been launched previously. As a safeguard at the end, if these two were still not good enough, we created for these most iconic corks the ND-Tech. But today, TCA is no longer applicable to cork. TCA is part of the past. We have developed technology, talent, we have developed skills, we have invested more than 200 million euros to make cork free of TCA, and today we can give a guaranteed performance to cork stoppers on every single segment of the industry. Once again, going from 6 cents to 6 euros, today TCA is no longer applicable to cork.
How has it worked in the past in terms of accountability for TCA? I mean, you say it's eradicated today. Great, fantastic. But I'm interested in the past. I grew up working in restaurants, and if a bottle of wine was corked, had TCA taint, the guest would maybe notify us, or it would be smelt when the bottle was opened. And then we tended to return the bottle of wine to the supplier and get credit or a refund. So that obviously pushed the burden of responsibility to the supplier. Does it then go back to the winemaker, and then does it eventually come back to you?
It could come. Yeah. Today we have a refund policy on the bottles that are identified with some of our processes if they are found to have TCA, which today we don't think it's applicable anymore. We can refund that bottle or those bottles that have been identified with TCA. That is not happening. Mm-hmm. The insurance policies that we have on product liability have been reducing for 10 years. So today it's really an historic issue, not anymore something that is on the table. It's no longer on the table.
That's fantastic. So how has the market changed then in the ratio between synthetics and screw caps and cork? I mean, let's maybe go back 25, 30 years when screw caps and synthetics started to come in and they peaked. How's that landscape changed, and what does it look like now as a share?
Well, I think that basically up till 2000, cork was clearly the dominant closure. It is still the dominant closure. Screw caps and plastics have come in. Initially, plastics were really the challenger to cork being the incumbent. Started in Australia, heavily promoted by the UK supermarkets that basically diffused the use of plastics worldwide. Plastics in a total market for wines and sparkling wine of about 20 billion bottles at its peak. We had at some stage 4 billion plastic stoppers. I think today you have probably 500 or 600 million. So the plastic usage in the world is probably a tenth, 15% of what it used to be at its peak. Of course, it's more than 25 years ago where they did not exist, but they are 1/10 or 1/15 of what they used to be 10 years ago. The elephant in the room is clear: screw caps, aluminium screw caps, heavily promoted once again by the UK supermarkets, heavily developed in Australia, in New Zealand, in Austria, Germany, Switzerland, some parts of Chile and South Africa. In all the other countries, France, Italy, Spain, America, cork is the dominant closure. So today in the world, I think that we should have something like 13 billion cork stoppers. about 5.5, 6 billion aluminium screw caps, and we should have another 600 million plastic stoppers. That's how the world has evolved in wine and sparkling wine.
So if my maths is correct, you're about 20 billion bottles of wine in total.
Yep.
And you're just over 50% of all the cork closures in the world,
Close
correct?
to that.
Yeah. So you're somewhere in the region of a third of every bottle of wine in the world has one of your corks in it.
25 to, yes,
30%.
a little bit less probably.
Yeah. Wow, that's incredible.
Because there is a lot of wine that is also sold in bag-in-the-box and Tetra Pak.
Yeah.
So we cannot neglect
it's got
that.
a plastic spout.
Exactly. There is probably 1/3 of the wine in volume in the world, and that's also a relevant packaging.
Sure, of
and
course.
that's also a relevant share of the market. But the ones that take a glass bottle, yes, a little bit below that. Yes.
What can you say about fine wines, vintage wines, and how cork compares to, I guess, synthetics or screw caps, whether anyone would even lay down a screw cap for that long? But is there any data on this, whether it be evaluative data from professional wine tasters or people under your company?
I mean, there are of course some comparative tests that have been done by screw caps that are basically 25 years old. There are some wineries that have tested, even some of the most iconic Bordeaux chateaus. They have tested cork versus alternative closures use, as they probably should have done. But today, cork is clearly the dominant closure on the most iconic wines in the world. So our conclusion is that if we are the preferred closure for the best wines in the world, we should be preferred closure for every single wine in the world. Because if we are good enough to seal the very, very best, I'm sure that we have everything that it takes to seal every single other bottle that exists in the world. So that's how we perform. So the fight of cork versus screw cap, I don't think plastic is really a meaningful player any longer in this combat. But cork versus screw cap, it will be a never-ending debate and a never-ending fight in the market.
Yeah, I mean, you must be doing something right. It will continue to be a fight. Cork is seen as being sustainable. It obviously regenerates itself. There's biodiversity that is encouraged by the placement of cork forests. What else is there to say about the sustainable side of cork?
I think that we always like to put these three. I think there are three specific features of cork. First of all, performance. You can be the most sustainable product. If it doesn't perform, nobody wants to hear about it. So performance is really the key reason why cork is used. Sustainability might come next, and premium image. It's also associated with cork usage. So those are the three features. So on performance, we have already spoken. On sustainability, we are absolutely unique. You can see on one of the panels in this room that for every single kilo of cork that is harvested from a forest, it has retained 73 kilos of CO2. Because that cork tree is day and night capturing CO2 from being released from this planet. So we are really a huge carbon sink that then is reflected on the product life cycle and the sustainability performance of our corks. So if we were already good and better than the other closures on performance, when you bring the sustainability item out, I don't think there is absolutely any doubt that when you put an aluminum screw cap on your bottle, you're not being very environmentally responsible. But when you put cork on that bottle, you're improving the carbon footprint of that wine bottle, contributing to live in a better planet. Because if there is more cork usage, we need to plant more cork trees to supply that usage. So we will be contributing more to make this planet a livable planet. And I think this is really the main feature on the sustainability. But when you talk about the positive externalities of a cork forest, you're not only talking about the carbon capture. You're talking about, as you said, biodiversity. The cork forests are the 36th biggest hotspot of biodiversity in the world. Endangered species in the world, like the Iberian lynx, like the Bonelli eagle, find their habitat on the cork forest. So biodiversity, absolutely crucial. Hydrological regulation, what does that mean? The cork tree in Portugal and Spain is forbidden by law to be cut. So it means that you're not going to have an agricultural exploitation above ground. It means that all the water rained because of the very little consumption of water that the cork tree needs will be stocked on the subsoil of the cork forest. So in the Iberian Peninsula, on the areas where you have cork forest is where you have the most important water reservoirs underground. So this is meaningful for the future of the planet. At the same time, we're talking about a renewable, recyclable material that to which you can give a second life. That's something that we are working on, this circular economy purpose. On the other hand, everything that comes from the forest is used. Nothing is wasted. Even the byproducts of the byproducts of the byproducts, we find a use, even if it is biomass for our own internal production. From an energy efficiency point of view, but we are second to none. So if we are already very good on performance, on sustainability, I think that cork is absolutely a unique, remarkable product to be talked about. And that's why Amorim, we have started to produce our first sustainability report in 2006. We have not stopped. We have been identified by Bloomberg as one of the 50 companies more sustainable in the world. And that's why our products, the products that take cork, have a negative carbon footprint that can improve the product life cycle of the products with which we're going to be associated on the next phase of our supply chain.
Do you own all of your cork trees?
We don't. We would love to, but we don't. But Amorim in the last 3 years have stopped being only a manufacturer, and we've started to buy some cork forest because we believe that there is so much future for everything that we do that we're going to be needing more cork in the future. So because it takes so long to give its harvest, we better start planting as soon as possible. So we bought 8,000 hectares, about 20,000 acres, where we will be planting 1.5 million cork trees in 5-6 years. We have already started in 2023, 24 to follow, this year once again. So that is really showing the commitment that we have towards our industry. We're not planting for ourselves, probably not even for our children. We're planting for 25, 30, 40 years to come. But you know, somebody was there taking care of those cork trees for us to have an industry as well today. So I think that's part of the legacy that we'll have to produce, is making sure that there is a future. And there is a future if we can grow, and we can grow if we can have more raw material. And that's what we are doing at the moment.
Well, and we're going to need more spaceships and satellites in the future as well. And
but you are sure that you will have those.
Yeah, exactly.
Today, SpaceX launches the satellite every 2 days. Yeah. And there are competition happening all over the place. So I'm sure of that, but I'm sure that we need more cork to feed the potential growth that our industry will have in the future.
Just to finish up, is there anything else you want to say about the future, your vision for how it's going to be, any other emerging applications for cork?
No, I think that we see and we talk today that there is a challenging future for the wine industry. Consumption of wine is not growing. Consumption of traditional wine is not growing. Sparkling wine, I think that will continue to grow. Spirits, probably today is tequila, tomorrow is going to be rum, the next day is going to be gin, then we go back to whiskey. But we will see that the market size of spirits is the double of the market size of wine and sparkling wine together. So for us, I still think we have a very relevant available market ahead of us. I think that we have been able to show the clear advantage that cork has over other materials and that premium image that allows cork to be the preferred closures for the best spirits, the best champagnes, and the best wines. So for us, the challenge is the following. We need to start to continue to invest, to research on the cork plantation front, because we are sure that we're going to be needing that additional cork to continue to see our industry grow. But we will have to go also beyond wine and spirits. So because cork can add on technical grounds huge additional advantages. For example, today the usage of teak wood for yachts is being challenged because it starts to be a wood under extinction.
Yes.
So cork could be replacing the use of teak, and you would not have your feet being burned with heat because cork is a temperature absorbent material. So that's the new type of uses that we believe we can have with cork, and that cannot stop. We will continue to research new uses, new applications, new combinations, new technologies that we can use with cork to make cork usage grow in the future. So very happy to be part of a family history. Very, very happy to be working with this unique and special material, and very happy to be part of a generation that is taking the business from a certain side, projecting it, and probably leaving it for the next generation with a much bigger responsibility, because the size and scale of what we are building is absolutely unique. But that's all due to the people, the talent that we have inside of the company, and the uniqueness of cork.
Antonio Amorim, thank you very much.
Thank you.